She said, "If my guy friends make you insecure, that's your problem." I said, "You're right." I packed my things and left. When she showed up at my brother's screaming that I abandoned her, I said, "No, I just solved my problem. You can keep your friends." Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I never thought I'd be the guy posting his life implosion on the internet, but here we are. I'm writing this from the guest bedroom of my brother's house, looking at 3 suitcases that contain everything I own. The rest of my life, the apartment, the furniture, the future we planned, is currently sitting in an empty silence across town. My name is Mark, 28M, and up until 48 hours ago, I was living with my girlfriend, Maya, 27F. We'd been together for 3 years. For the first 2.5, things were great. We were that couple everyone said was endgame. We rarely fought, our finances were in sync, and we had the same long-term goals. Then Caleb moved back to the city. Caleb is Maya's best friend from college. I'd heard stories about him, mostly funny anecdotes from their undergrad days, but I'd never met him until 6 months ago. When he first arrived, I made a genuine effort. I'm not the jealous type. I have female friends. Maya has male friends. It's normal. Trust is the baseline of any relationship, right? But Caleb wasn't just a friend. He was an orbiter. It started small. Late-night texts that weren't emergencies, just memes, or remember when messages at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. Then it was the emergency phone calls. Caleb had a flat tire. Caleb had a bad day at work. Caleb needed advice on his dating profile. Suddenly, our date nights were being interrupted because Caleb was having a crisis about a girl he'd met on Hinge 3 days prior. I tried to be understanding. He's lonely, Maya would say. He's adjusting to the city. But then the physical boundaries started blurring. We'd be at a bar with a group of friends, and Caleb wouldn't sit next to her. He'd sit on her side of the booth, squeezing in so their thighs were touching. He'd put his arm around the back of her chair, his hand dangling inches from her shoulder. If she made a joke, he'd laugh too hard and lean in to whisper something in her ear, excluding me entirely. I felt like a third wheel in my own relationship. The first time I brought it up, I kept it light. "Hey, does Caleb know boundaries? He's a little handsy." Maya laughed it off. "Oh my God, Mark. He's gay." "Well, not gay, but he's like a brother." "It's not like that. You're being weird." I let it slide. I didn't want to be the controlling boyfriend. But over the next few months, the brother dynamic evolved. He started buying her gifts, expensive ones. A vintage vinyl record she'd mentioned once. A bracelet for her birthday that cost more than the one I got her. When I confronted her about the bracelet, she got defensive. "He just makes good money, Mark. Why are you trying to ruin a nice gesture? You're acting so insecure lately. It's unattractive." That word, insecure, it became her favorite weapon. Every time I pointed out that maybe having dinner alone with him at a romantic Italian spot wasn't appropriate, I was insecure. Every time I asked why she deleted her text thread with him to save storage space, I was paranoid. The breaking point was this past weekend. Maya had been planning a trip to a music festival in Austin with the group. I couldn't go because of a project deadline at work. I was bummed, but I trusted her. Then, 2 days before the trip, the group started dropping out. First Sarah canceled, then Mike. By Thursday night, it was just Maya and Caleb. I was sitting at the kitchen island, watching her pack. She was humming, seemingly unbothered by the change in plans. "So," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "since everyone else bailed, are you guys still getting that Airbnb? Or are you getting separate rooms?" She didn't even look up from folding a crop top. "We're keeping the hotel room we booked. It's too late to cancel and get a refund, and booking a second room now would cost a fortune. It has 2 beds, Mark. Chill. I'm not comfortable with that," I said. "You sharing a hotel room with a guy who clearly has feelings for you? That's a hard boundary for me." She stopped packing and finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold. There was no empathy, no reassurance, just annoyance. "He doesn't have feelings for me. You are projecting your own lack of confidence onto him. It's pathetic." "It's not pathetic to expect respect," I shot back, my patience fraying. "If the roles were reversed, if I was sharing a hotel room with a girl I used to hook up with." "We never hooked up," she snapped. "Doesn't matter. The dynamic is disrespectful. If you go on this trip and share a room with him, I can't be here when you get back." I thought that would wake her up. I thought the threat of losing US would outweigh a weekend of partying. Instead, she laughed. A short, cruel sound. She walked over to the fridge, grabbed a water, and leaned against the counter, looking at me like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "Look," she said, her voice dripping with condensation. "I'm going. I'm not losing money on these tickets. And honestly, I'm tired of walking on eggshells because you're threatened by my friends." She took a sip of water, then delivered the line that ended us. "If my guy friends make you insecure, Mark, that's your problem, not mine. I'm not shrinking my life because you can't handle me having friends." I looked at her. I really looked at her. I saw the smirk she was trying to hide. I saw the complete lack of respect for me, for our 3 years, for the home we built. She thought she had checkmated me. She thought I would fold, apologize, and beg her not to be mad. She thought she held all the cards because I loved her more than she loved me. Something inside me just shut off. The anger didn't explode. It evaporated, leaving behind a cold, clinical clarity. "You're right," I said softly. She blinked, surprised by my sudden agreement. "What? You're right," I repeated, standing up. "It is my problem, and I shouldn't make it yours." She smirked again, victorious. "Exactly. I'm glad you finally get it. Have fun in Austin," I said. "I will," she replied, turning back to her suitcase. "Don't wait up." Maya left for the airport at 5 a.m. on Friday. She kissed me on the cheek while I pretended to be asleep. It was a cursory peck, the kind you give a pet before you leave for work. I heard the front door click shut, the lock engage, and the sound of her Uber pulling away. The moment the car engine faded, I sat up. I didn't feel sad. I felt like a man who had been holding his breath for 6 months and finally exhaled. I checked the time. I had roughly 72 hours before she returned. Plenty of time. I started in the bedroom. I didn't trash the place. I didn't cut up her clothes or smash her makeup. That's amateur hour. That shows emotion. I wanted to show absence. I packed my clothes methodically. Suits, jeans, t-shirts, gym gear. Everything went into the suitcases. I stripped the bed of the sheets I had bought, the high thread count ones she loved, and left the mattress bare. I moved to the bathroom. My toothbrush, my razor, my cologne, the shower caddy I installed. Gone. The living room was harder. We had bought a lot of things together, but I kept the receipts. The 65-inch OLED TV? Mine. The PlayStation? Mine. The soundbar? Mine. The expensive espresso machine she used every morning but never learned how to clean? Mine. I called my brother, Dave, around 8 a.m. "Yo," he answered groggy. "I need a favor," I said. "I need to borrow your truck, and I might need your guest room for a while." Dave didn't ask questions. He's never liked Maya. He always said she had main character syndrome. When I told him I was moving out, the only thing he said was, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. We worked in silence. We dismantled the TV mount. We boxed up my books. We took the dining chairs I had paid for. By 2 p.m., the apartment looked like a skeleton. It wasn't empty, but it was hollow. Her stuff was still there. Her scattered cushions, her fragile knickknacks, her overflowing bookshelf, but the anchor of the home was gone. I sat on a box for a moment, looking at the lease agreement on the counter. We were month to month after our first-year lease expired. I took a pen and wrote a formal letter to the landlord, giving my immediate notice and explaining that I had vacated the premises. I included a check for my half of the rent for the next month, just to be legally bulletproof. I left a copy on the counter for her. I thought about writing her a letter. I stood there with a Sharpie in my hand, hovering over a piece of notepad paper. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to explain why. I wanted to tell her that loyalty isn't insecurity and that boundaries aren't control. But then I remembered her face in the kitchen. That's your problem. If I wrote a letter, I was making it her problem. I was trying to get her to understand. But she had made it clear she didn't want to understand. She wanted to win. So I capped the Sharpie and put it in my pocket. No note. No explanation. My absence would be the loudest thing I ever said to her. I did one last sweep. I checked the drawers. I checked under the bathroom sink. I made sure I left nothing behind that could give her a reason to contact me. No loose chargers, no forgotten hoodies. I took my key off the ring and placed it on the center of the kitchen island, right next to the rent check. "You good?" Dave asked from the doorway. He was holding the last box of my vinyls. "Yeah," I said, taking one last look at the space where I thought I'd raise a family. It looked smaller now. "I'm good." I walked out and closed the door. I didn't lock it. I didn't have a key anymore. We drove to Dave's place in silence. The physical labor had been cathartic, but now the reality was setting in. I was 28, single, and sleeping in my brother's spare room. It felt like a failure. But then I looked at my phone. It was Friday night. Usually, by now, I'd be anxious. I'd be wondering if Caleb was texting her. I'd be wondering if they were drinking too much. I'd be wondering if I was being insecure. I looked at the screen. Nothing. I opened the settings and turned off read receipts. Then I muted her notifications. I didn't block her, not yet. I needed to see the timeline. I needed to know when the realization hit. Beer, Dave asked as we walked into his house. Make it a whiskey, I said. I sat on Dave's porch, watching the sun go down. For the first time in 6 months, my stomach wasn't in knots. I had solved my problem. Now, it was about to become hers. Sunday evening arrived with a heavy, humid stillness. I was sitting on Dave's patio, a half-eaten burger on my plate, watching a football game on his outdoor TV. My phone was face down on the table. At 7:15 p.m., it buzzed. I didn't pick it up immediately. I took a sip of my beer, finished a fry, and waited. It buzzed again. Then a long, sustained vibration, a call. Then another text. I flipped it over. Maya, 7:16 p.m. babe, I'm home. Why is the living room empty? Maya, 7:17 p.m. Where is the TV? And the espresso machine? Did we get robbed? I watched the bubbles appear and disappear as she typed the next one. The realization was setting in. She had walked into the kitchen. She had seen the key. She had seen the rent check. Maya, 7:20 p.m. mark. Why is your key on the counter? Maya, 7:21 p.m. pick up the phone. Maya, 7:22 p.m. This isn't funny. Where are you? My phone started ringing. Maya calling. I let it ring out. 10 minutes passed. The text shifted from confusion to the familiar, sharp-edged anger she used whenever I didn't immediately capitulate to her mood. Maya, 7:35 p.m. You're seriously doing this? You cleaned out the apartment because I went on a trip? That is so childish. Maya, 7:42 p.m. I can't believe you. You're literally throwing a tantrum because you're insecure about Caleb. Grow up. Maya, 7:50 p.m. We need to talk about this like adults. Come home right now and bring the stuff back. I'm not playing this game. I read them with a strange sense of detachment. It was like reading a script for a character I no longer played. She wasn't asking if I was okay. She wasn't asking if she had hurt me. She was commanding me to return to my post. She was mad that her appliances were gone, not that her partner was. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb and went back to watching the game. Monday morning, the tone shifted again. Panic. Maya, 8:15 a.m. mark. Please. I didn't mean to snap. I'm just tired from the trip. Can we just talk? Maya, 9:30 a.m. I called your office. They said you took personal leave. Are you okay? Maya, 11 a.m. This is insanity. You can't just abandon a 3-year relationship without a conversation. You owe me an explanation. I scrolled past them. I didn't know her anything. That was the beauty of her logic. If my feelings were my problem, then my absence was my solution. I was simply handling my business. By Tuesday, she tried to leverage guilt. Maya, I can't afford this place on my own, Mark. You know that. If you don't come back, I'm going to get evicted. Is that what you want? To see me on the street? I almost replied to that one. I almost typed, you should have thought about that before you booked a hotel room with another man. But I stopped myself. Silence was heavier. Silence was a mirror. Every time she texted into the void and got nothing back, she had to sit with her own reflection. I blocked her number on Wednesday. Not because I was weak, but because I was bored. The notifications were just noise now. 2 weeks passed. I settled into a routine at Dave's. I went to work, I hit the gym with a vengeance, and I started saving the money I used to spend on our life. It was shocking how fast my bank account grew when I wasn't funding expensive dinners to apologize for things I hadn't done. But just because I had blocked Maya didn't mean I was immune to the fallout. We shared a social circle, and the smear campaign had begun. I heard snippets from the few friends I still talked to. Maya was telling everyone I had a mental break. She claimed I was possessive, abusive, and that I had abandoned her out of the blue because I was threatened by her success. Then came the flying monkey. Jessica was Maya's college roommate. She had always tolerated me, but her loyalty was firmly with Maya. She called me on a Thursday evening. I knew exactly why she was calling, but I picked up anyway. I was ready. Mark, she said, her voice tight with self-righteous judgment. I can't believe I even have to make this call. Hello to you too, Jess, I said, putting her on speaker while I chopped vegetables for dinner. Don't give me that attitude. Maya is a wreck. She's been crying for 2 weeks. How could you do that to her? Just ghosting her? Leaving her with the rent? It's sociopathic, Mark. Is she stuck with the rent? I asked calmly. I left a check for the next month. She had 30 days to figure it out. That's not the point. Jess snapped. It's the emotional cruelty. You threw away 3 years because you couldn't handle her having a male friend. It's so incredibly weak. Is that what she told you? She told me everything. She told me you freaked out because she went to Austin with Caleb. Nothing happened, Mark. Caleb is just a friend. You let your insecurity ruin everything. I stopped chopping. Did she tell you what she said to me before she left? What? She looked me in the eye and said, if my guy friends make you insecure, that's your problem. She said she wasn't going to change her life for me. There was a pause on the line. So, Jess said, though with slightly less conviction, she was establishing boundaries. Exactly, I said, and I respected them. She told me my feelings were my problem. So I removed myself and my feelings from her life. I solved the problem, Jess. Why is she upset? She should be celebrating. She has total freedom now. That's twisting her words. No, it's applying them. You can't tell your partner that their comfort is irrelevant and then act shocked when they leave to find comfort somewhere else. Jess was silent for a long moment. Then, her tone shifted. The righteous anger leaked out, replaced by a weary frustration. Look, Mark, she's in a bad spot. Caleb isn't helping. I couldn't help the dry chuckle that escaped me. Let me guess. Now that she's actually single and available, the thrill is gone? He's too busy for her. He told her he's not in a place for a relationship right now, Jess admitted, sounding disgusted. He went back to his own place after the trip. He hasn't even helped her pack. She's trying to move into a studio, but her credit isn't great. She's asking if you can just talk to her, closure, or whatever. Caleb is her best friend, I said, my voice hardening. He can help her pack. He can co-sign her lease. That's what friends are for, right? Mark, come on. Be the bigger man. I am being the bigger man, Jess. I'm walking away instead of staying and fighting with a woman who doesn't respect me. Tell her good luck with the move. I hung up. The satisfaction wasn't a rush of adrenaline. It was a slow, warm burn. Caleb was exactly who I thought he was. A vulture who lost interest as soon as the carcass was free for the taking. He liked the game of stealing another man's woman. He didn't want the woman herself. I found out later through Dave that Maya had been forced to downsize to a crappy studio apartment on the edge of town. Her lifestyle, the brunches, the trips, the shopping, had been heavily subsidized by my salary. Without me, and with Caleb refusing to step up as the new provider, the math didn't work. She was posting sad, vague quotes on Instagram about narcissists and healing. Mutual friends were starting to get tired of it. The narrative was crumbling. People were asking, wait, if Mark was so controlling, why is he the one who quietly left? And where is Caleb? I thought it was over. I thought I had ghosted successfully. But narcissists don't let you go that easily. They need the last word. They need to win the breakup. 3 weeks after I left, Dave hosted a barbecue for his birthday. It was a Saturday. The sun was shining. I was manning the grill, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself. Then I heard the screech of tires in the driveway. I looked up to see Maya's Honda Civic slam into a park job that partially blocked the sidewalk. She got out. She looked thinner, frantic, and her hair was a mess. She wasn't wearing the designer clothes she usually flaunted. She was in sweatpants and an old tee. She stormed onto the lawn, spotting me at the grill. You, she screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. You think you can just hide here? The music stopped. The chatter died down. Dave's friends, half of whom knew the story, turned to watch. I put down the tongs and wiped my hands on a rag. I didn't feel my heart race. I didn't feel fear. I just felt the finality of it. It was time to end this. I stepped off the porch and onto the grass. I didn't rush. I walked with the deliberate slowness of a man approaching a feral animal. Behind me, Dave stood up, ready to intervene, but I held up a hand. I needed to do this. Maya was standing in the middle of the yard, chest heaving. She looked like a ghost of the girl I used to know. The confidence was gone, replaced by a jagged, manic energy. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she was clutching her phone like a weapon. "You blocked me," she spat as I got within talking distance. "You blocked me on everything." "Who does that?" "Someone who doesn't want to talk to you," I said calmly. My voice was low, forcing her to stop screaming if she wanted to hear me. "You don't get to just decide that," she yelled, her voice cracking. "We were together for 3 years, Mark. We were building a life. And you just evaporated because I went on a trip? Because I wouldn't let you control me?" The neighbors were definitely watching now. A couple walking their dog had stopped on the sidewalk. "I didn't care. I didn't try to control you, Maya," I said. "I set a boundary. You crossed it." "It was one weekend," she shrieked, taking a step toward me. "Nothing happened. Caleb and I didn't even sleep in the same bed. I slept on the couch because he was snoring. You threw everything away for nothing. For a scenario you made up in your insecure little head." There it was again. That word. "Is that why you're here?" I asked. "To tell me I'm insecure?" "I'm here because you owe me," she cried, tears finally spilling over. "I am drowning, Mark. My rent is double what I can afford. I had to sell my car just to cover the deposit on a studio. I have no furniture because you took everything. You ruined my life." She was shaking now, the anger dissolving into pure desperation. "How could you be so cruel? I loved you. Doesn't that mean anything? You abandoned me when I needed you most." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt absolutely nothing. No pity, no anger, just a cold, hard recognition of the truth. "I didn't abandon you," I said. "I listened to you." She wiped her face, confused. "What?" "That night in the kitchen," I said, my voice steady and carrying across the quiet lawn. "You stood there, packing your bag to go stay in a hotel with another man. And when I told you I wasn't okay with it, you looked me in the eye and told me exactly where I stood." I took a step closer, ensuring she heard every syllable. "You said, if my guy friends make you insecure, that's your problem." She froze. She remembered. "You told me it was my problem to solve," I continued. "So I solved it. I removed myself from the situation that was causing the problem. I removed myself from the relationship where my feelings were a joke to you. I didn't abandon you, Maya. I gave you exactly what you asked for. I let you live your life without my insecurity holding you back." She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The logic was a trap she had built herself, and now she was caught in it. "But," she stammered, her voice dropping to a whisper. I didn't think you would leave." "I know," I said. "You thought I would stay and take it. You thought you could disrespect me, and I'd just be grateful you came home. But you miscalculated." I looked over her shoulder at her empty car. "Where's Caleb?" I asked. The color drained from her face. "He's your best friend, right? The guy who gets you? The guy worth blowing up our relationship for." I tilted my head. "If you're struggling with rent and moving boxes, surely Caleb is helping you. That's what friends do." She looked down at the grass. The silence stretched, heavy and humiliating. "He's busy," she mumbled. "He's gone, isn't he?" I said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. "He got what he wanted, the ego boost of knowing you'd pick him over me. And the second things got real, the second you became a burden instead of a trophy, he bailed." She didn't deny it. She just started to sob, a raw, ugly sound. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "Mark, please. I made a mistake. I can fix it. I'll cut him off. I'll block him. Just, please, come home. I can't do this alone." She reached out to grab my arm. I took a step back, keeping myself just out of reach. "You aren't alone because of me, Maya. You're alone because you chose to be. You made a choice between my respect and his attention. You picked him." "I'm sorry," she wailed. "I'm sorry. I accept your apology," I said. "But I don't accept you." I turned back toward the house. "Mark," she screamed, the desperation turning back into rage. "You can't just walk away. You can't leave me like this." I stopped and looked back over my shoulder. "You can keep your friends, Maya," I said, delivering the final line with the detachment of a stranger. "I'm keeping my peace." I walked back up the porch steps. Dave was standing there, arms crossed. "You want me to call the cops?" he asked loud enough for her to hear. "Give her 2 minutes," I said. "If she's not gone, then make the call." I went inside and closed the door. I didn't look out the window. I poured myself another drink, sat on the couch, and listened. For a minute, there was shouting. Then silence. Then the sound of a car door slamming and an engine revving aggressively. As the sound of her car faded down the street, I felt the last knot of tension in my chest unravel. It was done. It has been 8 months since that day on the lawn. Life looks different now. Better. Quiet in the way a library is quiet. Peaceful, not empty. I lived with Dave for another month, then bought a place of my own. Not a rental, a purchase. I put the down payment on a small 2-bedroom house with a garage I've turned into a workshop. It's mine. Every nail, every board, every piece of furniture inside it belongs to me. There are no ghosts here. I got a promotion at work. Funny how much energy you have for your career when you aren't spending your mental bandwidth decoding gaslighting text messages or worrying about who your partner is texting at midnight. My boss noted that I seemed more focused. I told him I just had fewer distractions. I haven't heard from Maya directly. Dave told me she tried to friend him on Facebook a few months ago, probably to spy on me. He blocked her and sent me a screenshot with the caption LOL. From what I hear through the grapevine, because mutual friends are inevitable, she didn't learn much. She spun a story for a while that I was abusive, but it didn't stick. The evidence of my silence versus her public meltdowns was too stark. People aren't stupid. They saw a guy who quietly removed himself and a woman who screamed on a front lawn. They drew their own conclusions. The last I heard, she's dating a guy she met at a bar. A promoter or something. Apparently, he has a lot of female friends. I almost laughed when I heard that. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. I hope she enjoys the security of that relationship. As for me, I started seeing someone new about 2 months ago. Her name is Sarah. On our 3rd date, her phone buzzed while we were at dinner. She looked at it, frowned, and flipped it face down. "Everything okay?" I asked, feeling that old prickle of anxiety. "Yeah," she said. "Just my ex trying to stir up drama. He's blocked, but he tries from new numbers sometimes. Do you need to take it?" She looked at me like I was crazy. "Why would I interrupt a date with you to talk to him? That's disrespectful." I breathed out. It was such a small thing, but it felt like oxygen. I realized something during this whole ordeal. Insecurity isn't always a character flaw. Sometimes it's an alarm system. It's your gut telling you that you aren't safe, that you aren't being valued, and that the person you love is dangerous to your heart. Maya was right about one thing. It was my problem. I was trying to force someone to respect me when they didn't want to. I was trying to negotiate boundaries with someone who viewed them as challenges. That was my burden to carry. But I put it down. I packed it into 3 suitcases, left a key on the counter, and walked out the door. If you're reading this and you feel like the insecure, 1, ask yourself, are you insecure or are you just observant? Are you crazy or are you being gaslit? And if they tell you that their disrespect is your problem, believe them, then solve it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.